All right, everybody. Sitting right behind me here is I want to say 2011 Softail. And I just got done installing the front and rear air suspension, shotgun rear air suspension, and CedilloCustoms my setup that you can find on my website, air suspension kit. This is all laid out right now. So I can show you real quick what it'll do when I raise it. So that's fully up, all the way up. And if you don't have a shotgun shock setup and you plan on getting one and you want to install it yourself, that's totally cool. They're pretty straightforward. They come with good instructions. Just be aware, everybody out there with a shotgun shock setup that says that they're very slow going up, and I'm talking like some people think it's extremely slow, similar to Legends Air, you might be doing it wrong. You want to definitely, both switches have to be pushed up at the same time for it to go up faster when you let the air out for it to go down. You can always bring it down with the rear switch. And then if you want to go back up, you could just release that. So it's a little faster that way, but it takes longer bringing it down, and it doesn't sound as cool when you pull up and you lay it out. So anyway, I will be showing you the procedure, or at least the video that I made for installing the front and rear full shotgun, well, some shotgun stuff, but mainly my setup in the front for those who have a lot of questions about them. Okay, everybody, this is going to be the first video of installing a shotgun shock setup along with my CedilloCustoms front air ride setup on this bike, and I'll try to do my best so that way anybody that wants to order a setup, they'll have something to go off of. Yeah, so I will be clipping some videos together, so I'll try to get as much as I can. So when installing one of these, you got to check these bolt holes right here. Make sure that these are later models, so they're threaded. The early models, sometimes, or the California ones, have a carbon filter there, and they may have a bolt sticking out right there, which you will end up having to either thread, or if it has the bolt, you got to use the bolt with the nuts that come with the kit. These obviously don't. Or if they don't have the bolts, then you got to thread them with a 7/16 14 thread. Okay, next step, you got to take all of this off. Take the headlight off here. Well, before that, actually, you got to just undo the tank. Undo that guy. No, unbolt it. Unbolt this. And then literally just pull it back just enough to get in here. Unplug the headlight. Unplug the signal light bar. That way you can remove all of this. And then once you have all that removed, now it's time to remove all of this. And while you're doing this, it's a good idea to change this to chrome and that to chrome. That way you don't got to rip it all apart again. Alrighty. Okay, so people do this a little bit differently. They're all over the place, but this is how I do it. If you want to try it, I put a potty pad down just in case I get some splashing, but I have that for the fork oil. And I leave them on here. That way it has somewhere to hold them so you can drain them. You want a 6mm. It has to be a square end. I like using this impact because it helps. These are pretty tight sometimes. Loosen it up. Take the bolt out. And you could do this and get them out faster. There's one. Get a bigger battery. Bigger battery works. So now that those, you could let them drain for a little while. Take the clips. Find the end, take the clips out. Then there's a washer in here underneath the seal, so you just pull on them until they come off. Let those drain for a little bit, and then start undoing this up here. Okay, so next I'm going to take this off and start pulling the forks out. And this is a 1 3/8. Or you can use a big ass pressing wrench. It's up to you. And there's times that these are very tight and there's times that they're not so tight. So what you can do is do these one at a time. So that way this doesn't, you don't want this to turn from each other. So you just put that up there, take a 13/16. I was loose. Loosen those up. Now you're going to pull these out and get these off. So when doing this part, everybody out there has their methods. This is mine. Might be crude, might be whatever, but this is the way I do it. Seems to work pretty well. I find it to be safer than trying to hold it with anything else. So what I do is I use these little machine vise, drill press little clamp. Tighten that down. I made this guy out of some Delrin, whatever. That goes over that, so I can put my weight on it. That way I can unscrew it and nothing flies anywhere. So that's nice and that's all loose. Now the kit, if you buy a kit from me, what it's gonna come with a little piece of 2-inch PVC. It's gonna go right there. This stock spring I'm gonna put aside. Then loosen this up. Take the seal out of here. Put it in the fork cap that I provide in the kit. Then this guy, put it back in the clamp. Spring. Plunger. Just like that. Fork. Sometimes it doesn't find the hole. And then this one doesn't take as much weight. Screw it back on. Okay, so now got that all on there. Make sure you put this back in. Put your chrome slide lower on there. Get your little bolt. I know some guys like putting silicone and stuff right here. I suggest don't, because you won't get this back off, or Loctite some people do. You'll never get this back off because now it's going to be locked into that thing. What you want to do is just take an impact and impact it very well. Make sure you don't strip that bolt, and then turn it over. Take your old seal off. You have your new seal, and if you notice on the new seals, you have a thicker side and a smaller step. The thicker side is always going to go down. When you're putting these on, you want to make sure you don't fold any of it. So be careful as you put it on. Slide that guy on there. If you don't have one of these, get yourself one. It's a slider. It's a little slider for the seal. Make sure it's in far enough to put the clip on. You usually notice the difference in sound once you get it in there. That clipped, now it's ready to install. Okay, so I got these all together. Got both of them together. Let's lay that down. This guy's all together. So, let's start with the right side. Put that up in there. Put them both in there. So you guys can see what's going on. Leave it turned right there. Now, your harness is going to look like this when you get it. What you want to do is, I'll label these with labels right now. I labeled them the way I just know them right now. So you want to loosen up and take that bolt, this nut off. in both of them. And you're going to want to put some Teflon tape on these guys. And if you've never put Teflon tape on, you want to make sure that the threads are facing you. You want to go clockwise with it. And you do not want to go over this edge. Otherwise, you have a higher potential of having basically like little shards of Teflon in your air system. And you don't want that because higher possibility of leaving a leak, or your little plunger will get stuck. So now with that on there, I'm going to put this is the dump side, so I'm going to put that on this guy. So screw that on. You got plenty of leverage here. Once it starts getting tight, you want to line it up just like that. Put the fork back on. Take your fork cap and seal. And you basically want to aim this to where the hose barely clears this guy. I know some guys would usually bolt that down right now. I like to tighten this first just to make sure it's nice and tight before I tighten this. But let me get now, go ahead and tighten this guy up. Going on to the other side. Start going over the edge. Don't like that. And when you're using this Teflon, depending on the thickness of it, if it's the thicker stuff, you want to do at least 3 of these turns. The thinner stuff, I would suggest 4 to 5. You just don't want it to go over that edge and potentially getting your system once you tighten it down. Pretty simple, as long as you put all this together before you do all this. Now, if you have them clocked just like this, you're going to be clearing everything, all your nacelle. You don't have to worry about anything hitting. And then in the kit, you're going to have this air line. It's going to run across here. And right there, nice and tight. None of this is going to move. You have a check valve here. So once the air gets past this check valve, your only leak potentials are here, 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 so on and so forth. Less areas for leaks, the better. And your airline, obviously, if it messes up on the road as you're riding, you're not going to lose any air, because these are one direction, and you have to have pressure behind them for this to keep air, because if this pressure drops, this will open, allowing air to come back. Okay, so now you're going to start running the rest of the harness through the bike. Basically, all this has got to be ran under the tank. So what I suggest, and the way I set these up, is take this front switch off. There's a line on that switch. See that little line, the little groove? That always goes up. Okay, so these guys, that one's up. I'm gonna put the nut back on there. Now these, you gotta be really careful you don't over tighten them. You just want them to stop right there and maybe give it a little tiny bit more. Because if you over tighten those guys, they will strip out. Or this little stainless steel piece is clamped in here, and it'll pull out and cause a leak right there. So be careful of that. And this one, you can put it that way. I like to put them both downward. It's not going to change the performance. It's just going to look a little different because this has got a little more gap. If you want to put a little bit of Loctite on here, find the pink, very, very mild. Put a little bit on there if you want to try that. I have had these fall off. You just got to make sure, like I said, you don't want to over tighten them, but you don't want to have them too loose. Now, this guy, I usually just take and literally just zip tie it right here, so that way it's out of the way. It's not going to bother anybody. And you don't have to worry about hiding it under your seat. So now to run these under the tank, you can keep your fuse in there because it's not going to hurt anything with it in there. You don't really have anything exposed that's going to short or anything, so it could stay in there. This guy's going to go all the way back. I'll show you that a little bit later, but it's going to go all the way back and plug in between the two plugs for the compressor on the shotgun. So I like running the line, all this wiring down the left side. Actually, my bad. The right side. No, the left side, my bad. So you want to run them all up under here. You want to run them where all the rest of your wiring is ran. Just right alongside all of this. And then I'm gonna run it right through the tank, right through here. And now you have to use a buddy or something to help you run this through here. Hold the tank up. A little bit of a pain to get all this through here. The switch is going to end up. Put it up. Grab the switch. And it's going to be ran. It's going to be down under here. So you can run it right to the connector right here, or the switch holder. Now, let's get this all set up. So now, what I like to do is run this wiring I want to run this guy right to here, and I like to loosen these up and run it right under there and then zip tie it here. Also, for the shotgun shock, I'm pretty sure they have their ground set up to ground here instead of right to the battery, so you have less stuff on your battery, which I honestly prefer. You don't want to have a bunch of stuff on your battery. So when you're running this, I like to keep everything real nice and tight, real nice and clean. So this guy's gonna run right along here. I like to run a zip tie right under here and actually tie it right to all the wiring, where all the wiring is. This guy's going to be running down here, so you might need a pry bar. Sometimes you take a pry bar and you open this up where the wiring is, just to get that down there. Especially for the shotgun as well, you want to run that through there. Okay, so one step that I kind of skipped let's just go back to oil. So once you put these in, this is the way I like to do it, is put them back in. You could put the oil beforehand, but I like to do them once I get them in the bike. That way if I find anything out and I gotta pull them back out, I don't have to drain them again. So they're already drained. Don't have to worry about that. Well, you want to do, and I made this cool little funnel, so it just goes right in there. And you're gonna want to put 12 ounces of what I use is all-purpose. This is what I use right here. Automatic transmission fluid, all-purpose ATF. This stuff rides amazing. So 12 ounces in each fork. If you run less, you may have issues with oil coming out of your dump. Because as the bike goes up and down, it essentially squirts up, and the more oil in there, or no more, you don't want to put more than 12, but you want 8 or 10. And I also like using a little bit longer hose so it'll go past these fittings, so you're not getting oil in here right now as you're putting this together or putting the oil in. Now let's put the caps back on. These square O-rings can kind of be a little pain in the ass sometimes to get in there, but inch and 3/8 wrench. Okay, so that part's done. They're full of oil. Now, I already got the wiring kind of ran through. And next, we'll do the wiring on the back. Okay, everybody. Doing this part of the wiring. I've been making these harnesses for a while now, a couple years if that. But I have never once installed one of my harnesses that I sell, because whenever I do one of these setups, I do the wiring in the bike. So I don't really build the harness and then put it in. So one thing that occurred to me was getting it through here could be a real pain in the ass, and some people end up running it elsewhere. So the best place to run your wiring, as to not have any problems with pinching from the swing arm or anything, will be right down through this area right here where this wiring is. There's like a plastic holder there. So one thing that I do, and I'm going to start including in the kit for these, is I take some of this whenever I do the shotgun shocks. I use one of these pieces of I think this is a 1/2 inch loom. So if you use this, it's like one of the, what they call the Chinese handcuffs, because you put your fingers in them and they won't come out. So you take this nice and thin, you can run it through there, and then as you work it through, I actually use a little crowbar or a pry bar, and it helps to work it through. Sometimes taping this side helps as well, so it doesn't want to slip out. So let's see, put that in there. Hopefully it's not working very well. Okay, got that first bigger one through. Got that piece through. That was from my harness, my kit. And then, so let's do the shotgun harness. So the shotgun harness has 3 plugs. Put these guys in here. pop it through. Wiggling helps. So these aren't together, so we gotta kind of push them individually. Okay. Looks like I got them all through. So now that relay stays there. This guy goes up here. The ground comes with it. This ground goes here. You want to put this ground here, not on the battery. And then obviously the positive goes to the positive. I personally like to run everything under all the stuff that's already here, so it doesn't stick out so much. So those guys go there. And then the ground. And then same thing with this guy. This is for the switches. It's gonna go under here. And we have a little bit of room for the plug. Go that way. So I always try to get those bolts started a little bit before I try to put them on, because sometimes they don't want to go. Now, if you're wondering why my kit only has the positive, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If I didn't, it uses the ground coming off of the compressor plug. So this ground is going to be used because it's a constant ground to the compressor. So now you have a ground for the relay and the valves up front. That way you have the less wiring you have here, the better. So, okay, got that. Those goes there. Before we tighten this side, I like putting this under here. Okay. Get those all tightened up. Now, this is for your battery tender. I'll probably zip tie this along with everything else, kind of just hanging out here. So more convenient for the customer to be able to get to it easily. Maybe down here. So let's go ahead and zip tie this stuff. If you don't have a set of these guys, get you one. I think you can find them at like Harbor Freight or probably on eBay or Amazon. Really easy to find. I forget what they're called, forceps or some shit. Anyway, so I like to take these guys and kind of form them a little, kind of have a little bit of a vent to them. That way, when I put them under here, they hit the tank and go inward, so I can see them down there. Take this, reach under there, grab it. You want to get your long zip ties. Short, I mean, you don't necessarily need it that long once it's all zip tied, but you need it long to find it prior to. So now I have to keep everything right over the wiring all together. There's one. Next. And last one. Should clean up this side very nicely. Put it under there in the best place possible, and then try to scoot it back as far as you can. Put this back part in the cleaner. This relay you can either shove down into there or lay it in here. However you feel comfortable. Alright, so there's that. Okay, so now I went ahead and ran the airline. You want enough slack in the airline as to where this is turned all the way to this side, so it's at its extended whatever, and then you want to run this line right along with all the rest of the wiring that's going that way. Now the wiring, and this is a later model, this is a little bit I think it's an 2011. So this one has this style of wire loom, or the conduit for the wiring. It's out of the way. So what you see is those little black tabs, these little tabs here, they come back, you can move them, and there's going to be an opening right here so that your switches can go through, and then your wiring can come down, and then into here. It's all nice and clean. The airline goes right along this side. Don't go over the frame, because if you go over the frame, the tank's too low and it smashes the line. I like to run this line right along these guys, so you'll have these carbon filter lines all the way down here. Run it straight down. Still haven't done that. We'll do that in a second. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish some of this off without the camera. Just get that out of the way. And then once I get the front's pretty much done, I gotta run these or put these into this switch housing for the 3 switches, and then mount that. And yeah, I'll do that in a second. Okay, so getting to the compressor, this is the way I like to set it up. So the shotgun compressor, when you're setting this up, it usually comes with a little piece of hose, and the piece of hose goes between this guy and that guy. So now, because you're putting front air, you got these 2 lines are in the kit that I provide. These 2 lines come up in here, and then once you mount this inside the bike, these are going to come up here to this Y that then will go into. Okay, everybody, so I got the compressor in, and Like I said, I've never installed my kit, but I just come to the realization that this is a little long. So this will be shortened up in the new kits. So basically here, you have your compressor, you have, I already showed you that earlier, you have the two lines running here. I decided to run it directly through here. That way it doesn't really even need to be zip tied, it's just right there. And then this guy plugs right in to your compressor. This will plug in here. This will plug in, this is the shotgun external valve. We'll plug into this 2-pin plug. And then this third one with the three pin will hook up to the actual setup, which is not installed just yet. That will be put in just in just a second. And all of this will have to be zip tied somewhere. I'll try to figure out where. So that essentially concludes the majority of my setup. As far as the shotgun setup, like I said, all I got to do is mount the shock part and bolt it all up, and then just plug it right in here. So that is fairly simple. I know that once this is already installed, it makes it a little more difficult to run the airlines. So if you can remove the lower shock when you do it, might help. But the airline that goes between this and that is now coming up this way. So you're essentially sharing the air from the compressor to the front end. And because the front end doesn't need as much pressure, when the compressor turns on, it doesn't do anything with the back. If the back starts going up before the front does, you have something that's clogged, or that front valve is not opening, your up valve. Alrighty, don't forget to like, share, follow, all that good stuff. And check out my website, CedilloCustoms.com. Thanks for watching.